Okay, let's talk about a little sexy topic here called wholesaling. So we'll start off with just a couple questions for you guys first. So in the last year, how many of you guys have flipped a property? Raise your hand if you flipped a property in the last year. Awesome, we got one gentleman. And how many have you purchased a property as a buy and hold in the last year? Awesome. And then in the upcoming year, how many of you guys are looking to either do a flip or buy some buy and holds? All right, I see that we have a few. Awesome, awesome. Well, my name is Alex, and I've been wholesaling for about 5 years. I have an awesome business partner. He's not here today. His name is Victor Rybachuk. And the two of us, we've been wholesaling for 5 years. We're probably at about 100 wholesales that we've done, and we're kind of accelerating things. And I'll give you guys a little kind of snapshot of what wholesaling is, and if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So let's get started. All right, so let's talk about real truths of real estate. What is, I guess, let me ask you first, what are some of the laws of real estate you guys know of? Just throw them out at me.
You make money when you buy.
All right, you make money, you buy. Wow. All right, I don't have to go any further. That's exactly it. You got to buy at the right price. If you buy at the wrong price, if you're overpaying, it's going to take you a long time, if ever, to get your money back and actually make a return, right? Now, let's talk about this. So here in the Seattle market, we're going to take you back to Econ 101, supply and demand curve. So as we know, the supply in our area has not been growing very quickly, if at all, right? There is just all kinds of restrictions on the supply side, and I would even say that some of the supply has dwindled. So we're seeing, this is the supply curve here. This is S1 position. We've seen it that has gone up. So for the same price, fewer and fewer people are willing to sell their real estate. So the supply side is going down, right? Now on the demand, as we all know, we're here. Demand has also risen, right? Just in the last 10 years, 500,000 people have moved to our area, right? So now we're at about 4.2 million in the greater Puget Sound area. 500 people or 500,000 people, that's 10% of the population. So that's a significant move, right? So what does this all mean? Well, this means that when you're able to buy, something at this price, now for exactly the same piece of real estate, you're probably paying something right here. And if we tie it back to the first point, you have to buy at the right price. So there's a good chance that you're overpaying. Now, how do you find deals? Let me ask you, how do you guys think, how do you find a deal?
You look.
All right. So to find a deal, you got to find something for a good price, right? You got to, and you also got to look for some place where the competition is low. And when you guys look on the MLS, what do you think? What do you think about the competition right now?
Crazy.
Crazy. That's one way to put it, right? So Igor was just telling us about, kind of a decent property that he thought was just decent, and it got 15 offers. Yeah, pretty significant competition, right? Where's competition low? Do you guys know any spots in the market where the competition is low?
Well, if the property is bad, competition could be low, right? If it's not attractive, but in general, if it's a good piece of real estate, there will be competition.
Okay.
If it's incorrectly priced, sometimes competition can be low.
What's that?
If it's incorrectly priced.
If it's incorrectly. Let's say it's correctly priced. Where do you find that?
Very competition is very high. Bad neighborhood?
I'm going to say off-market deals. Little plug. So when you look online, it's available to absolutely everybody, right? Absolutely everybody and their grandma is looking at a property. I try to go for properties on the MLS myself, and property comes up at 9 in the morning, you call 11 o'clock and they're like, we already have 9 offers. Great. So you gotta go off with wholesale deals. Now, I know we are probably a little bit tired, it's the end of the day, but I'm gonna ask all you guys to stand up for a second. All right, awesome, stretch out. Cool. So please keep standing if you've heard of wholesaling before. All right, looks like everybody's heard of wholesaling. Please keep standing if you know how to, if you can explain what wholesaling is. All right. Please keep standing if you've done a wholesale deal in the last year, let's say. Awesome. All right. Oh, have you done a wholesale deal?
Yeah.
Awesome. Please stand. Can you explain to the audience, in your words, what is a wholesale deal?
So we find a property that we know someone will pay more. We
Yep.
put this property under contract ourselves, and we sell the rights to the contract to someone.
Yep, exactly. That's a wholesale deal. So basically, the first step, wholesaler finds a seller that needs to sell, and it has to be off market, because if it's on market, that's not going to be a wholesale. The second step, the wholesaler negotiates with the seller, and we sign a purchase and sales agreement. We got to have a PSA. There's some wholesalers that are trying to market properties that they don't have an agreement with the seller, and I would say they're not wholesalers. Then the wholesaler, step 3, finds a buyer, and then finally the buyer closes on the property. Wholesaler assigns the PSA to the buyer. And then the buyer closes the deal. So those are kind of the basic steps of wholesaling. So where do you find wholesalers? First off, well, the first and most obvious place to find wholesalers is to talk to your real estate agent. I think a lot of us have real estate agent friends. Talk to them. Real estate agents are connected into the community. They can connect you with some wholesalers. For instance, Igor right there, perfect connection to wholesalers. If you want to be a bit more proactive, what you can do is you can also go into Facebook real estate investing groups. There's fantastic Facebook real estate investing groups in our area. Jan Wilnot runs one that's called Ware, fantastic group. And then also there's specific Facebook wholesaling groups. One that comes to mind, I think the biggest one is Wholesaling Houses Full Time. There's about 100,000 people in there. Most of them are wholesalers. And if you're interested in investing out of state, that's a great group, because deals pop up there all the time, all over the country. And you can actually see the difference in numbers, in cash flow, in returns, just right there throughout the country. Obviously Washington, California, Oregon, we get pretty crappy returns. You get lots of deals there in Ohio and Cleveland and Tennessee and all those markets, and much better returns. So kind of interesting kind of slice there of the real estate market around the country that you can see. Now, what to expect if you're buying from a wholesaler? I'll take you through kind of the basic steps if you're an investor and you're looking to buy from a wholesaler and you want to buy a deal from a wholesaler. So step number 1, typically you're going to be on a number of wholesalers' email buyer lists. So if you can manage the first step of finding a few wholesalers, asking them to add you to their buyers list, whenever a wholesaler gets a deal, classically, they will send out an email saying, hey, real estate investors, I got this deal, here are the details. Typically what you'll see is at least a photo of the property on the outside, and most likely inside, so you'll get to kind of see 10, 15, 20 photos. You'll see basically what price the wholesaler is looking to assign the property for. Most of the time, they will include their assignment fee into the purchase price. So you'll see, okay, this is how much I need to pay the wholesaler to get this deal. And then a lot of times, depending on the quality of the wholesaler, they'll also have the after repair value. They'll have the cash flow. They may have the rent-o-meter. They may even have rehab expenses, estimates, those kind of things. It just kind of depends on the actual wholesaler. But basically, you're going to get their email, right? The next thing is you're going to contact the wholesaler and you say, hey, wholesaler, I want to see this property. And they're going to say, terrific, you want to see this property? Different wholesalers go through different ways of doing this. When we send out an email, we have a form. So you fill out a Google web form. You're saying, hey, I want to see this property. You input some additional information. and then the wholesaler contacts you and they figure out a time that you can go and see the property. It just kind of depends on the wholesaler. Sometimes there's going to be multiple investors seeing the property at the same time. Sometimes you're going to be lucky and it's just going to be you. Different wholesalers have different models. Some wholesalers say, hey, the first person to contact me, the first investor who contacts me, is the one that's going to get to look at the property first and is going to have the first shot of making the offer. Other wholesalers, bigger wholesalers, kind of like us, for instance, we are open to multiple investors, and we actually have an inspection event where you can come and check out the property, and we usually open it to 5 to 10 people. So after that, you make an offer, right? So you make an offer to a wholesaler. Usually it doesn't have to be a written offer. Usually kind of a verbal offer is sufficient, and they'll typically ask you, what is your source of funds? The best answer, of course, is cash. Cash is king. Second best is hard money lending. There's a ton of different hard money lenders around, and it's kind of usually limited to that. In some cases, some rare situations, a wholesaler will actually accept traditional financing. The only caveat in that case is that traditional financing does not finance the assignment fees. And so that means that you would have to bring additional money to the table to pay for the assignment fee. But that's pretty rare in our state, in our area. More common, it happens in other parts of the country. All right, so once you make an offer and your offer is accepted, the wholesaler will send you an assignment agreement. So an assignment agreement basically means is that you're taking on the rights of the buyer in the purchase and sales agreement that the wholesaler signed with the seller. So you're stepping into the wholesaler's shoes, you're taking over the purchase and sales agreement. One key thing to remember is that when you're signing the assignment agreement, you want to review what's in the assignment agreement, and you also want to review the original purchase and sales agreement, the PSA. Because most of the time, wholesalers are going to use their own PSA, so they're not going to use the traditional Northwest MLS PSA that everybody's familiar with. They're going to have their own PSA, and so you kind of want to read through it because you're taking on the responsibility of fulfilling the contract, right? Then you make a deposit towards the assignment fee. Usually, in our area, it ranges between $1,000 to $10,000 for most deals. For instance, we charge a $5,000 fee, and this is just to make sure that you have some skin in the game and that you're interested in the deal and you're going to be moving forward. Then you verify, obviously, before closing, you go and you verify the condition of the property before the actual close. Usually this happens, 3 or 2, sometimes 1 day before the actual closing. You deposit the funds, and then you close on the property. So that's how a pretty standard transaction looks like from the shoes of the buyer. Okay. Any questions about this?
Can you give us an example?
Sure, I can give you an example. So we've done a deal in Seattle fairly recently. So this is kind of North Seattle, around Northgate area. The seller contacted us saying, hey, I want to sell my house. I'm moving to Arizona. The reason I don't want to list with a real estate agent is because the house needs quite a bit of work. There's a lot of, there's foundation issues. We got a bunch of quotes on the foundation, and it's just not gonna, it's not financeable. So I went out, met with the seller. We had a nice little chat. Kind of funny incident. So in the life of a wholesaler, you see all kinds of houses, all kinds of situations. So when the seller opened their door, they had a nice little fun-looking corgi come out, and I was going to come down and pet it, and it just ran at me and nipped me in the leg. So you kind of get that, but that was the first hurdle. We overcame that. Walked around the house, checked out the house. It seemed like the house was in pretty good condition, but there was definitely that issue. You couldn't really see it from the outside, but it was, when you're walking through the house, you kind of feel that it was sloping, right? So I went in and negotiated with the seller. We negotiated a price that made sense for them. They were relatively well off, so they were fine, taking a bit less than what they would have gone on the market if they were to list the house, and they didn't want to go through the hassles, right, of potentially going through multiple parties who would bring in their own contractors. So that was kind of the situation. Then about 2 weeks later, we marketed the property to our buyers list. So we have about 2,600 buyers on our buyers list, because we've been around. But it's kind of funny thing, out of the 2,600 buyers, the most active buyers are probably 2 or 3 people. So I would say probably 2 or 3 people end up buying 80% of our properties, 80% of our deals, right? So people raised their hands. They said, "Hey, we're interested in seeing the property." A week later, we scheduled the inspection. Everybody who was interested was able to come out, check out the property. And then a day later, they submitted their offers, kind of through an email, non-formal email saying, "This is the offer. This is where, what my source of funds is." We selected the strongest offer, and about a month later, the buyer closed on the deal. So the numbers on this one were kind of atypical, but we got it for $250. The purchase price was $250, and we assigned the deal for $400. So it was a pretty nice spread. Doesn't happen every day. I wish it would, but so the expectation that we're shooting for is 10% profit from you guys based on the ARV. So if you're going to be selling that property, let's say for $320, all fixed up, you should be making a profit of at least 30 grand, 30 to 35. Now, of course, a lot of our buyers, they either are also agents, so they can list for a bit less, or they have connections with agents. Some of them bring their own cash, and that everything there improves the return, right? We're talking about the most conservative scenario. You should be getting at least 10% of the ARV.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, in most cases, you cannot get conventional financing for a wholesale.
Correct.
Right.
So the question is, can you get conventional financing for a wholesale? Most of the time, it doesn't work because the sellers are looking for a quick close. However, if the numbers, if there is not much competition, or if you're offering way more and you're willing to bring money to the table that's your own, we definitely know wholesalers that will definitely negotiate with the sellers to extend the closing, to do those kind of things, because it makes a lot of sense for them, because you can pay for the assignment fee, and I can get the assignment fee up front, or part of it up front, and then I'll go and negotiate with the seller, and if they're okay, sometimes sellers are fine staying there for 2, 3, 4 months to give you enough time to get the conventional financing. And a shameless plug, guys, purchasethisdeal.com if you want to get on our list.
Hi there, thanks again for watching another great video on real estate. I hope that you feel a little bit more inspired and excited about potentially finding the property at a discount off market. However, I want to mention that even if you find one at a discount and off market, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a great deal. The question is, what will be the after repair value of that property, and how much money will it take to get there, right? What is your rehab budget, and what's your RV number is? And a lot of times, all of those deals that come from online and from quite a few wholesalers, the RV is way higher than what it actually is, and the rehab budget is lower, to show you that you'll make so much money and it's such a fantastic deal. And it's not. I see quite often, especially newer investors that are eager, they want to get some property, they want to jump in the flip, they want to get things going. They lose a lot of money at first because they are too fast to jump in without verifying those numbers. For me personally, I evaluate 4 to 5 deals a day, and only once in a while, 2-3 a month that are really, really good opportunities that we provide to our investors. But we look at 4 to 5 of them a day, running numbers constantly. So my message to you is this: before you buy anything, send it our way. Give me a call and just ask, Igor, could you please run numbers for me on this one? I want to make sure that you're buying only good deals and good opportunities, and pass on something that you shouldn't jump into. So make yourself a favor. We'll review numbers for you complimentary without any commitments. We only want to help. Thank you so much.